All right. So my name is George Koff. I am the program manager at ClearResult for the Peninsula Clean Energy EV Ready program. Steve Wilcox will be helping me moderate today's webinar. Michael, if you want to go ahead and go to the next slide. So just real quick to cover today's webinar protocols, all attendees are in listen-only mode. The webinar is being recorded and will be posted later. If you have any questions, by all means, feel free to use the Q&A button. We just ask that any comments or questions be respectful. And if you want to go ahead and advance the slide, there you go. There's our presenters, our Melanie and Michael. And I'll hand it over to Melanie.
Hello, everyone. I'm Melanie Jasper. I'm with Peninsula Clean Energy. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. I'm so excited to see so many folks on the webinar today. And I'm here, myself and my colleague, Michael Martin from ClearResult will be speaking to you today about our EV Ready program. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So on this webinar, I'm going to cover a little bit about just who's Peninsula Clean Energy, why are we interested in installing EV charging, a bit about the history of our program, the available incentives, which everyone's interested in, right? Go ahead and show me the money. We'll talk about some case studies and just next steps in discussion. And I'm really hoping that we'll have a good amount of time today for discussion. And so please, everyone, bring forth your questions. We're really here as your EV charging experts to answer any questions you might have. Two main takeaways from today's presentation. One is that funding is available for you. If you're a property owner of a business, a workplace, a apartment building, a rental, any rental, 4 units or more in Peninsula Clean Energy territory, you qualify. And so that's the real message for you all today, is that there is funding available. Take advantage of it while
Melanie, I think somehow you got muted. If you can unmute yourself.
Oh, so sorry about
that.
There you go. I don't know how that happened.
I'm not sure what happened there either.
I'm not sure where I cut off there. Hopefully, do you guys hear me on this slide at all?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, but you may want to repeat that again, today's takeaways.
Yeah, let me just jump back in here. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, today's main takeaways. So there's funding available to help you pay for EV charging projects. Any of the projects in our Peninsula Clean Energy service territory. Almost anywhere that you want to install chargers besides a single family home, we're able to help you out. And we have design assistance and incentives to help you do that. And we'll talk a bit more about the design assistance as we go through this presentation. Go ahead and go next. So just a little bit of background for everyone. You might not be familiar with us. Peninsula Clean Energy, we are electricity provider. And you could see from this diagram here on the screen, we work in conjunction with PG&E. PG&E owns the electric transmission lines that delivers the electricity, but it's Peninsula Clean Energy who's deciding what resources go onto that grid and ultimately deciding what gets delivered to you. We're a clean energy provider. We're locally led. So, powered by San Mateo County and the individuals here. And we're all about providing clean energy and doing it as affordably as possible. The affordability of electricity for our customers is a top priority for us. And we're trying to reduce greenhouse gas emissions as we do this. And that brings us into our next slide. Go ahead. So why electric vehicles? So part of reducing greenhouse gas emissions is tackling the challenge of all the gas vehicles on the road. And that's why Peninsula Clean Energy is engaged in this. That's why we care about it. But why should anyone else care about EV charging? Well, the reality is, especially here in the Bay Area and in Northern California, EVs are here. Last year, 1 in 4 cars, 25% of cars in San Mateo County were an EV. So several thousand more EVs on the road. We're at the point where renters are looking for this commodity. They're asking for this commodity, and maybe picking or not picking a place to rent based on whether EV charging is available. So the time to get on it is definitely now. Go ahead and move forward. And great, just a little bit. So jumping into our program here, there's two main aspects of the EV Ready program. So we're here, our goal of our program is to really just increase access to EV charging throughout our territory. We want residents in San Mateo County in the city of Los Baños to be able to charge where they live, where they work, and publicly in their community. We're reaching that goal with two main channels here. The first is offering design assistance. So this is the process which Mike will get into later, where we will walk you through specific charging options for your property, analyze what the best options are for your property. We have access to preferred pricing from several of our vendors, and we'll also help you connect with your electrician, with your contractor, and find someone reliable who's going to get this work done for you as it needs to get done. In addition to that, we have rebates. Our rebates cover level 1 and level 2, both outlets and chargers. They could be assigned to individual residents or individual employees, or they could be shared and open for the public. But any of those level 1 and level 2 outlets and chargers will qualify. All right, go ahead and take it to the next slide. So just a little bit about why, who we are, again, who Clear Result is. So there's a partnership here in the design of this program. So Peninsula Clean Energy, we're the program provider. We're the ones really directing the funding here and providing the funding, which ultimately all comes part of our, our mission here to reinvest in our community. We're a non-profit company, so everything we make gets reinvested through programs as this one. Clear Result is our partner in this program, and they're the technical experts here. So they're the engineers who will come onto your project site, who will analyze your site with you, who will offer your options for EV charging and provide all those services to help you out. So with that, I'm going to let Michael take it away here, and he's going to speak more about that technical assistance service that they offer.
Thank you, Melanie, and glad to be here and welcome everyone. So like Melanie said, I represent Clear Result. We are a clean energy consulting company, corporately headquartered in Austin, Texas. We work with a number of utility partners across the country. You can find us in 50 states, US, also in Canada. And we're a proud partner to be working with Peninsula Clean Energy on this specific program relative to electric vehicle ready and infrastructure. So as Melanie mentioned, we have a team of engineers. We come out, we assess your site, analyze your site, and then come back to you with certain recommendations. This is the pathway, as I like to call it, the customer journey that you would travel. This would start with the submission of an application, be followed up by an introductory phone call from me just to kind of get some goals and objectives in terms of what you want to achieve, and also talk about the timeline that you would like to achieve those in. Follow that would be a site visit. One of our energy engineers would schedule a in-person site walk with you to answer some questions, take a look at your existing electrical infrastructure, the location where the EV chargers potentially would be located. And once we've kind of had that visit, then we'll gather some quantitative data, which will allow us to take a look at your capacity estimate, and then return to you with a recommendation, which would include a design layout, chargers that would maybe be the best use case for your site, and any type of recommendations. Following that presentation, you would enter into a bidding process in terms of finding a contractor, a qualified contractor who could install and do the scope of work required for your property. The contractor would also be responsible for securing the work permits from the city, installing the EV, as we call it, EVSC or EV supply equipment, and then upon approval of that, upon installation and operation of those EV chargers, you would submit the designated paperwork, which would probably include work permits, a copy of the invoice, and a verification form that would go to Peninsula Clean Energy. They would review everything, and upon their approval, they would submit the rebate check back to you. Here we have the various EV charging types that are good. Taking a look here at level 1, We find that that's great for apartments, both fitting the needs of the residents and while also being the most affordable. Level 2 outlets are also very effective. They have a little bit more power, requiring 240 volts. And also, we have the actual level 2 chargers themselves. In addition, we also offer what's known as Make Ready. Make Ready ports can be covered. This allows future projects where to install an electrical infrastructure, which would allow you to install chargers, not today, but in the future. But your electrical infrastructure, including the wiring and the conduit, would be installed today, and we do provide incentives for that. These are the different charging types that we have available. This is a level 1. It's the simplest, can be plugged into any standard outlet. This is a level 2 outlet. This is more powerful and requires the type of plug outlet that you would see, say, on a clothes washer or dryer. DC fast chargers are in a class by themselves. It requires significantly a higher amount of electricity to operate. You'll tend to see these maybe more in city and county fleet vehicle lots and things of that nature, school districts for school buses and things of that like. Here we also offer vendors. There's a list of vendors that offer preferred pricing, as Melanie mentioned earlier, which include outlets for multifamily charging. We have a mix of smart outlets, load management outlets. As you can see here, we also at the base of the slide here, you can see the tab that you could plug into your browser and take a look at the various vending options. Also available are network chargers for public charging, which you might find at a shopping center such as Hillsdale in San Mateo and things of that nature. Moving over here to the PC incentives themselves, what's very good about this is that you'll notice here with the outlets in particular, level 1 or level 2 outlets, there's no cap. So for example, what this would mean, you can install 50 outlets. If you want to install 50 outlets, you could receive up to $100,000 in incentives from Peninsula Clean Energy. In addition, there are a $4,500 rebate on the actual level 2 charging station port. We do have a maximum of $90,000 per property, in which PCE incentives should cover 75% of the project cost. In addition, if your main panel needs an upgrade to accommodate the power to operate the level 2 chargers or outlets, we do offer a $5,000 incentive for that one-time fee, up to $5,000 for that property. We also offer incentive programs for affordable housing. So the Bridge, Eden Housing, Mid-Penn, and some of the other nonprofits that specialize in affordable housing. We also offer an incentive program for you as well. In addition, existing workplace, employee parking, publicly accessible parking lots that are non-residential, and existing building who want to install future make-ready infrastructure for the future, we also offer very attractive incentives for you as well. Here we have a testimonial from one of our happy customers. This in case it's Tyrone Property. They completed installation of 5 San Mateo County locations. Peninsula Clean Energy PCE energy rebates covered 95% of the cost for those properties. Tyrone Properties installed kind of a combination of both level 1 and low-powered level 2 for their various sites. And at the end of the day, their total net out-of-pocket was less than $150 per charger. So this is a very, very happy customer, and this could be you. In terms of next steps, if you have an interest, and we're going to open it up to Q&A here in a moment, you can submit the enrollment form here. We will go through the site walk in person, as I mentioned earlier. Once we've gathered the necessary data, we would present a charging evaluation presentation to you, disclosing pretty much our analysis, what we found, and what our recommendations would be moving forward. And once you decide to move forward, then you would enter into the bidding and contractor selection process if needed. In addition, if you have a relationship with an existing contractor who is qualified to do this work, you are certainly free to use them as well. If you already have a design or already have a contractor and you're ready to start construction, you can submit a rebate reservation installation you can submit a rebate reservation. You can see the link here. You can receive the funds reservation form via DocuSign. And again, once the chargers are installed, up and operational, then you would submit your installation verification form, and then upon approval, you would receive your rebate from Peninsula Clean Energy. Again, today's takeaways, we want to let you know that the funding is available to help you pay for EV charging projects. Free and objective design assistance is available for business as well as apartment property managers and owners. Contractors, you are free also to, represent your customer clients and apply on their behalf as well. Here's an example of just EV chargers that have been installed through the PCE EV Ready program. And now we're going to open it up for Q&A. Again, George will kind of control that in terms of unmuting you, or feel free to type your questions in the chat. Again,
Yeah,
thanks for
definitely.
attending.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael and Melanie. Great content, just such a great program. If you have any questions, we did receive one question, Melanie, in the Q&A section. The question was, the Fed just stopped funding green rebates for states. And maybe you can talk a little bit about the funding source for this program. I know you covered it, maybe go into a little more detail on that. And if anyone else has any questions, please raise your hand in the toolbar, and I can either unmute you or you can ask your question in either the chat or the Q&A.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you. I saw that question in the chat, and thank you, Steve, for that question. I think a lot of people are concerned about, the future funding for these sort of projects with, the federal government cutting back as they currently are. But the good news for us is that we are a completely self-funded program. Peninsula Clean Energy, even though we sell electricity, we don't keep any of that profit, right? So everything we make from the sale of electricity gets reinvested into the community. And in that way, we are fully self-funded in this program. So it's really just taking, that profit or not profit from the sale of electricity and reinvesting it here. And so, yeah, we're happy to say there's no real risk of the funding source going away in the near future for this program.
Perfect.
I see other questions rolling in too. So thank you guys for that.
Love it when the audience is engaged. Steve, yes, we're happy to send out a PDF version of this PowerPoint deck after the presentation. Absolutely, you can get a copy of the slide deck. We also had a question. Michael, maybe you want to go back a few slides. Gail has a question, says, please go over the costs for multifamily. Does it cover 100% of the costs? And I will let Michael answer that question.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is it depends on what you want to do here. If you have level 1 or level 2 outlets that you're looking to install, again, there is no cap. Now, in the spirit of transparency, how this process would work is that you would, after the assessment and you decide you want to move forward, you would then work the arrangement out with the contractor. Under the guidelines of this program, the contractor does get paid upfront. Okay, and then once you submit the paperwork after the work has been completed, then you can expect to receive your rebate check. Now, the next question is, how long was that going to take? So I think conservatively, you're probably looking at maybe a 3 to 5 week window in terms of receiving the rebate check once the project is completed. Now, if it's relative to the actual level 2 charging station itself, we do have a cap of, as we said, $90,000 per property, or 75% of the actual project cost. So in this particular case, and I won't get caught up in the mathematics part of it, but let's just say, I don't know, hypothetically, just a real simple basic math, if it was a, I don't know, $100,000 project, then in theory, we would cover, or the incentives would cover roughly up to $90,000 or 75% of that $100,000. You as the customer would be responsible for the other 25% or the balance of that would be due payable to the contractor. So,
and Michael, I have a question for you. How would a potential customer have a ballpark idea of what their specific project at their particular site is going to cost? How would they know that?
Okay, so how that would work is going through the customer journey, and let me just kind of go back a couple of slides here. Once we have the in-person site walk, we will be able to get the quantitative data that we need. This will enable us to prepare the report. So when I would present the report to you, what that would talk about basically would be, okay, here's your property, here's what we found in terms of the electrical capacity that you might have, and here's the 2 or 3 recommendations that we would propose. In the same body of that report, we will have an itemized breakdown of estimated costs. This would include the cost of the chargers. This would include a projected estimate of the design and infrastructure. This would also include the estimated incentives that you would qualify for. So once we subtract out all of those numeric numbers, then you would have a true estimate of what it would cost you out of your pocket. So it'll be a very detailed report. You would clearly know, okay, here's what my potential personal investment is going to be for this project. With that number and that numerical information, this will help you make the best business case decision for your site location.
And the great thing is, working with PCE, ClearResult has developed this PCE portal. And the portal will give you, the customer, the opportunity to see these reports and see the different scenarios and pick the solution that you're most interested in pursuing. And then you can actually send that solution to contractors right there from the PCE portal. So the idea is that you're going to pick the contractors you're interested in working with. You'll send them, hey, here's the request for bids, and here's the scope of work that I'm looking for. And then at that point, Michael is definitely happy to continue helping you. But if you want to just continue that conversation with the contractors and figure out what the exact scope of work is going to be and how much the project is going to cost, from that particular contractor versus another, Michael's more than happy to help you analyze those bids. But again, that's part of the free technical analysis that we as ClearResult are going to bring to you, the customer. We give you the report, we give you some ballpark estimates to give you an idea of what you're looking for, what is this project going to look like. Okay, let's go over.
Can I add one thing there before we move on?
Sure.
Can we go back to the incentive slide real quick there? And I think I saw another question in the chat about the ballpark price. So I'll touch on that real quick. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I think it's related to our cost conversation. So yeah, a few things here. So our ballpark costs are pretty close to our incentive costs. Most of our outlet projects cost between $2,000 to $3,000 for the customer. That's before the incentive. So that means after the incentive, after a $2,000 per port incentive, you could have 100% of your project costs covered. It could be less. It could be about 60, 70% of the project costs covered. So I did want to highlight that there is that you can get up to 100% of your project cost covered for outlet projects. And that's part of, as George and Michael said, that's part of the evaluation that we're happy to do for your property. Similarly, for level 2 charging stations, our average cost range maybe around $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 per port for those projects. It really depends on the details of the project. But there again, you might see 60, 70% of your project cost covered. The only caveat for level 2 is that you are on the hook for 25% of the overall cost. So you're not quite going to get 100% covered. But yeah, hopefully that answers the rough cost question too.
Michael, can you advance one more slide? I think there's a affordable there's also the affordable multifamily housing incentive, which, as you can see in the middle of that, it can provide at up to 100% of the project cost for affordable housing. So and these are the questions that Michael and our engineering team will go through and answer all of those during the free technical advising process. That's exactly the kind of stuff that we answer. Okay, we got a few more questions. This is great. The questions just keep coming in. Let's answer the next one. Jack asks, our apartment tenants with electric meters, how how does the rebate work for property? Okay, so it's a good question. And if I understand correctly, you're asking, what if the electric vehicle chargers or the electric vehicle outlets are tied directly to the tenant's meter? And I will turn that over to, who wants to answer that one? Melanie, Michael? Melanie will answer that one. There
I'm
you
happy
go.
to answer that one. Yeah, I think this
There you
is a
go.
great question that we get all the time. Yeah, so as far as how, and actually the next question after this too, I think is tied
Yep,
in as far as
exactly.
how metering works. So I might try to answer both of them. So yeah, in a typical apartment building setup, right, it's important to understand you're going to have one common area meter. This is commonly referred to as the house meter. That's the bill that's paid for by the property owner or property manager, right? The house meter covers your garage lights, your garage door, exterior lighting, other systems like that, right? In addition, you'll have every single apartment will have their own electric meter, so that way each resident gets their own electric bill. And the short answer as far as EV charging goes is that you have either option. You could install the chargers and connect them to, can you guys still hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, yeah, so you could install the EV chargers and connect them to each resident's meter. And the challenge there is that it's important to note that when you do that, it's hardwired solution and it's physically going to be connected to each resident's meter. So that means that charger is always going to be that apartment's charger. There's no switching around, right? But some apartments that works just perfectly. You know, if you have 12 apartments and 12 parking spaces and it's always the same resident in each spot, great. You can connect each charger to each meter and it's really simple. The other option there, which is honestly, I would say more common so far, is to install a smart charger or a smart outlet. And so what that would look like is you would install the EV chargers or the EV outlets on the house, the common meter. So that means the bill for that electricity will go to the property manager. And that's why you need a smart system, a network charger. And that way each driver, when they go to pay, when they go to use the charger, they'll tap their credit card, they'll tap a phone app to use the outlet, to use the charger. And that way the driver gets billed for that usage and the property manager gets reimbursed for that electricity usage. It also gives the property manager, when you have a network charger, it also gives you control over who uses that charger, how much they're paying to use that charger. It's in your hands then to be able to control those options. And you'll get a nice online portal where you can sign in and view the chargers, see that they're connected, see if they're in use.
And Michael, if you go back to the slide with the vendors information. So, and this kind of ties into the next question from Amber, who says she came across an article about Pando and she's wondering, should she reach out directly to Pando or should she go through us first? And to kind of follow up on Melanie's answer there, all of these different e-mobility service providers or network service providers, as they're sometimes called, they all provide their own separate solution and their own platform. And which one makes the most sense for you? That's a great question. And the answer is, it depends. It depends on what you're looking for. And that's part of what we're here as the complementary technical advising team. That's what we're here to help you figure out is, here are your options. Here's your particular situation. You're going to want to ask these questions to these vendors. And as you start talking to the contractors, they'll have preferences. We don't have preferences because we're neutral. We're third-party objective advisors. So we're not paid by any of these companies to endorse one product over another. We're going to look at your situation and say, okay, well, in your situation, we've seen other properties in similar situations do this. And these are the vendors that you'll want to talk to. And here are the questions you might want to ask them to make sure that you get a product at the end of the day that's going to fit you and your tenants or your residents' needs. Let's see, we got a question here. Can you give a ballpark cost per unit? Short answer is yes, absolutely. We could definitely give you an estimate, and that's part of the charging evaluation report or the EV solutions that our technical advising team is going to provide you. We'll give you an itemized breakdown. Here's how much you can expect to pay for the outlets or the chargers. And the chargers are the ones with the cord that ends in a plug versus the outlet, which is where the driver brings their own cord. So we'll give you a breakdown and say, this is how much you can expect to pay for the equipment. Here's how much all the infrastructure, and if there's going to be things like landscape work or trenching or anything like that, here's how much that's going to cost you. So you can get an idea of your options, and then you can pursue whichever option makes the most sense for you. All right, just to pay attention to time, we are officially at the bottom of the hour. This webinar is scheduled to go until 1, which looks like we've got quite a few more questions to work through. We'll get through as many as we can in the next 25 minutes or so, and then we'll wrap up. All right, we have a question here. Let's see, is the meter tied to a particular PG&E account? I think Melanie already kind of covered that, and so did Michael. Did you either one of you want to put a finer point on that, or do we feel Jack, do you let me know through the chat if you feel like that question got answered? Here's a great question.
I could sum it up one more time real quick, which is just, the chargers, it depends on how you install the chargers. They could be installed either on the property owner's PG&E meter and PG&E account, or the individual tenant's meter and tenant's account. And, the benefits of each really depends property to property and what you're looking for. And we're happy to help you, assess which is best for your case.
Yeah. And that kind of leads into the next question from Steve, which is, what's to prevent another tenant from plugging into another tenant's charging port? And this is where Melanie, I think Michael too, were talking about the difference between smart and non-smart, or connected versus non-connected charging hardware. So if it's smart, then that means that either charging cord with the plug on the end or the outlet is connected to a platform where the property site host gets to determine this port gets used by these people. And maybe that's controlled either by a phone app, or it's a fob on their keychain. And then that tenant can plug in there after they've logged in for the session. If it's a non-smart outlet, then you're right, there's nothing to stop one tenant from plugging into another's charge port. Unless maybe it's assigned parking, but that's a different set of circumstances. But again, there's options. There are options in the marketplace. That's part of what we, as the non-biased, third-party, objective, complementary technical advisors, that's our job, is to make sure that you know what the options are and what the pros and cons of each option are, so that you're in the best position to make an informed decision. Okay, let's see. How do you define affordable? Oh, I'm assuming you're talking about affordable housing. Melanie, how does PCE define affordable housing?
You know what? Let's come back to this question, because I'm going to take a second and look up if we have a specific definition here.
Great question. Let's move on. All right. How can you ensure that broken chargers are fixed promptly? Ooh, this is a great question. Short answer is, if you go through a network service provider, so any of the vendors, if you want to scroll back up, Michael, to the vendors page. So any of these vendors like Orange, GoPower EV, Plugzio, Pando, any of those, or the ones on the right side of the screen, typically those agreements that you would have between the property site host and the network service provider, there's typically an option for a maintenance and assistance option. And it depends on which package which vendor you go with and which package you end up opting for. Sometimes it's the contractor who installed the equipment is the one that you have an agreement worked out to make sure that the equipment is running. And if it's networked or connected or smart, then that means that if something is malfunctioning, the property site host would get an alert, like typically on their phone, that would say, this charger is misbehaving or is not functioning, time for maintenance. Some of the vendors have gone to great lengths to make it very easy to replace broken equipment. I'll let the vendors tell you which ones those are. There are ways definitely of telling if a charger is not working properly. Okay, moving on.
I've
got a question for
to the
go ahead.
affordability question.
Yes.
So yeah, the way we really define affordable housing is entities that are, units that are all below market rate, and importantly, whose rents or sales prices are governed by local agencies. So it's something that's, managed and controlled by a local housing authority determined to be affordable housing. Though I did want to highlight again, so one, if you have a property, if you're not sure if it counts as affordable housing or not, please come and ask us. We're happy to help you make that determination for your specific property. But I also want to highlight that all multifamily buildings qualify for the program. There's some increased incentives for affordable housing, but there's still going to be an incentive for you, even if you don't qualify as affordable housing.
There you go. There's a question from Joseph referencing an electric article that says this property did EV charging for $405 per unit. Is this the same program? And
yes,
Michael just so happens to have been the account manager on this particular project. So the short answer is yes, absolutely. This is the same program. Let's see. Gail asks, is that only for L2? That is the smart charger. Good question. So for L1, actually go back to the vendors slide there, Michael. So short answer, Gail, is it depends. Longer answer is if you look at these different vendors, can you put your mouse right over the orange outlets? Those outlets from Orange are what we call low power level 2 outlets, and they are smart and connected. So they're not full 32 amp delivered like the home chargers right to the right of those orange chargers you see, like the Autel. Those are level 2 chargers that provide 32. It's typically installed on a 40 amp circuit, and it's delivers 32 amps at the time of charge. And then as compared to that, you have the orange outlets, which they do offer level 2 outlets now, which is a new thing for them, but they also offer low power level 2, which offers about half as much as the L2. And then to the left of that is the Go Power EV product. Go Power EV, you'll notice that product has 3 outlets on the one unit right there. And the way that works is the outlet in the middle is a low power level 2 outlet. And then the outlets on either side are level 1 outlets. So the level 1, just to remind everybody, that's just like your typical outlet in your home that you're going to plug your lamp into. It's a 120 volt. That's exactly what that's powering the EVs at. It's called a trickle charge. There might be some folks listening on the call who think a level 1 charger, that's not going to charge your EV. I can tell you, as someone who's owned an EV for close to 5 years and has never installed an L2 charger in his house, a level 1 works perfect for me and my family. So yes, a level 1 charger is very much a legit way to charge an EV. You can definitely meet most commuting needs on just a level 1 charge. So if you're thinking, oh, I want the big DCFC for my apartment complex. When Michael's laughing because when you see how much that's going to cost compared to the level 1 or the low power level 2s, that will quickly change your tune. The DCFC tends to be very large installations. So those can often, you'll see them on travel corridors, like right off of highways, and they're meant to get an EV mostly charged in about 15 minutes, half an hour. You can get a pretty good charge on that. But it's not the kind of charger that you want installed at your apartment or your business, not typically, unless you're going to be doing like fleet charging or something like that. Gail, I hope
Can
that
I add
answered your
something
question.
in on this
Yes,
question,
please,
George?
please. Yes.
Yeah, so just to go back to the question of networked versus non-networked,
Yep.
it's important to note that either an outlet or like smart or non-smart, it's the same thing. When I say smart, I mean a network charger. So either an outlet, a level 1 outlet, a level 2 outlet, or a level 2 charger, they could be either smart or not.
Right.
You know, an outlet can be a smart outlet or a regular outlet. A charger can be a smart charger or a regular charger. And it's really up to you. So if you need the billing functionality, so that means that the chargers are installed on the property owner's electric bill. In that case, you want a smart solution, a smart outlet or a smart charger is up to you. But you want that smart solution so that you have the billing capability to get reimbursed for that electricity usage. So yeah, I think what's not pictured here is a regular outlet, you know, a non-networked outlet. All these outlets here are networked, they're smart outlets. But you can have a regular old, you know, 110 or 240 volt like non-networked outlet as well. But yeah, that's not as common. But yeah, it's important to note here that either chargers or outlets, they could be network or non-networked, and it's up to the specific property case.
In the non-networked level 1 charger, Melanie, does that qualify for a rebate? Really?
Yeah, definitely. It's
absolutely.
You can't. So it's in situations where chargers aren't already there. So especially there with actually a good question, because I'm happy to talk about this further. With the DCC device that's there, for example,
yeah. Can you put your mouse
to run a non-networked outlet that's actually physically hardwired to each individual's tenant's bill. And in that situation, it could be a just normal standard 110 outlet. The important thing, right, is we're imagining like a multifamily garage, an HOA garage, or a small property rental garage where you might have a dozen, you know, tenants parking their cars there that don't have an outlet already. And in that situation, yeah, you could absolutely install a non-networked outlet that's physically connected to each unit's meter with the load management device. In that situation, yeah, often we'll see it's either in a private garage where it's enclosed, right? You can't have anyone come off the street and plug into that outlet. Or I think it was mentioned in the chat, you could put a lockbox on it, right? And that tenant would just unlock their outlet and then plug in.
And just throwing in the words load management, what is that? You'll notice we're not getting too deep into the technical aspects of EV charging on this call. That is not the point of this call. The point of this call is we want to let you know about this program. We want to let you know that there's money available to help you offset the costs of these EV charger installations. And we want you to know there's technical advising. That's not going to cost you anything. And we're here for you. We're going to answer your questions about your particular site. So if load management makes sense for your site, Michael and our engineers will meet with you and we will answer all your questions about it to make sure, again, when you get to that point, are you doing this? Are you not doing this? What is the project going to look like? All of that information, you've got all those questions answered so that you can feel confident you're making the right decision moving forward.
And George
okay.
and Melanie, I have one question that I want to interject. This was asked to me, personally some time ago, just in a separate conversation. So Melanie, in terms of the affordable housing, some units here or some housing complexes in the Bay Area are kind of a combination where they're, let's say, general market, yet as a part of their provision, be it with the city or the county, they have to set aside a certain portion of, call it, apartments or dwellings for affordable housing tenants. How would that qualify? Would the tenant have to basically apply on their own to qualify under affordable housing? Would that be the under the umbrella of the owner of the property or the property management firm? How would that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. If there's some units in there that are affordable, but I believe our program rules do define affordable housing to be made up entirely of affordable housing units. So it's the entire complex being designated for affordable housing.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Where are we with our questions? I know we're
right,
running through them.
These are really good questions.
Yeah, this is
thank
awesome.
you, audience, keeping us on our toes. I love it. The question, I think we already covered this. Does the smart charger require an internet connection? Short answer is yes. How that internet connection is established, it varies from vendor to vendor. Sometimes it's cell, sometimes it's a Wi-Fi connection. But again, those are the kinds of things that we can help you as we assess your specific situation. Are you an underground parking garage where there's no way you're going to get a cell signal? Or is it a different situation where you can, and that becomes an option? We'll help you work through that. Let's see, most likely our main panel upgrade will be, you'll need to upgrade your main panel. Will this cover 100% of those costs? And how does this work? Melanie, you want to fill that one as far as how does the main panel upgrade?
I'm so happy this question actually came up because we probably didn't talk about this enough. But yeah, there is a $5,000 incentive to help you recover or help you cover replacing your main panel. I will caveat that is only available for multifamily or affordable multifamily housing. If you're a business property, I'm sorry, but we're not going to be able to cover that for you. But as far as whether it covers the whole cost, it does depend on the property itself. And that is something where I would recommend you work through the program and get our technical assistance, because we'll be able to evaluate that on the site. But it can, is the short answer. I've seen many sites where they're able to just swap, similar equipment with similar equipment of a bigger size, in which case $5,000 is totally enough to cover it. I've seen other buildings where the infrastructure is much older and they have to do an overhaul, maybe remove or replace, bigger parts of the system, in which case it can cost more in the realm of $10,000, $15,000, in which case the $5,000 would cover a portion of that amount.
And that's why the technical advising is being offered at no cost to you as the property owners and the property site decision makers, is because we want you to have all that information before you start on a project. We want to help you understand, look, this is what your current infrastructure looks like. And, look, that panel was installed sometime in the late 30s. It's time for an upgrade on that. There are certain brands like Zensco equipment, which we typically recommend. Go ahead and replace that. This is a good time to upgrade that. So it's going to depend on your project, but that's why you go through the technical advising process.
And George, to kind of just add that little caveat here, you mentioned free. I think that's important to mention. Again, this is a free assessment of your property. So this is not, because I get asked these questions periodically. Well, hey, am I going to get who are you? Am I going to get invoice for your services on the back end or something like that?
Nope.
And I said, no, we are in partnership with Peninsula Clean Energy on this program. So there is not going to be after the fact, oh, I got this in the mail, what is this, type of an invoice. This is, so I just wanted to at least make that, very, very clear, because those questions do come up to me periodically.
The only thing we ask is that if you do move forward with your project, keep us in the loop. Let us know how it's going. We love to watch these projects go to fruition. All right, we got less than 10 minutes. Let's see if we can get through these last few questions. What is the cost difference between a smart charging type versus a standard type? The cost difference can be significant. If we're talking about outlets, off the top of your head, Melanie, Michael?
I would say most of the smart outlets shown here are in like the $400 to $600 range, where if you were to get a non-networked outlet, you would want to get one, maybe not anyone from Home Depot. You want to get one rated for EV charging, but those are going to be like $60, $80. So it would be cheaper to get a non-networked outlet, though. If you need load management there, that might trade off. These load management devices are about, I think, $900 a piece. So it depends whether it's better to go non-networked and get the cheaper outlets, or go networked, pay a bit more for the outlet, but then you have that smart system.
And while we're on the topic, there's a question in here, I think somewhere further down the road. Let's just talk about real quick about load management. So load management gives you the ability to basically put more chargers on the same system in not compromising safety. You're going to do it in the same safe manner. But it allows the system to spread the available electrical capacity across more chargers at the same time. And that can be done in two ways. One way it gets done is by paying a network service provider. So like one of these companies like GoPower EV or Orange, a monthly fee to give you as the site host the access to that feature. And that is an ongoing fee. The other way to do it is with a product like the RVE, which is a one and done. You buy the product, it allows you to have load management, and then you're done. There's no ongoing fees. There's upsides and downsides to both. So it depends, but again, that's why we go through the technical advising to give you those options. Let's see, do Orange outlets, let's see, this is a question from Gail. Do Orange outlets low power L2 require electrical upgrades? Does it need a different charging adapter? Short answer is it depends. How many are you installing? What's your available capacity at your building? If you need to upgrade your panel to add more chargers, again, that's why we offer the technical advising process, is to look at your site, analyze what's happening, give you your options, and help you figure out exactly. And as far as does it need a different charging adapter, the EV charging plugs, that's going to be on the EV driver to supply those. That's one of the reasons that a lot of apartment complexes are going with EV outlets as compared to the EV supply equipment, which is the base with the cord that ends in a plug that goes into the car, because the outlet means there's a lot less physical equipment to maintain, and it's on the EV driver to make sure that they have the right plug for their car and to plug into your EV dedicated outlet. Let's see, Jack asks, please, let's see, ballpark cash flow requirement. So another great question. And this goes into what we were talking about, load management, as far as if you're going to be using an ongoing monthly service. So part of what our technical analysis provides is an operating model. So we can let you know ballpark, if you're going to be using these chargers with this type of EV driver, if it's a tenant or if it's at a commercial building like an office or something like that, and you're paying this much for electricity, then as the site host, if you charge this much, you'll break even. And if you charge this much more, you'll have a net profit. If you charge less because you want to provide the charging as an amenity, this is how much it would cost you. We give you those operational models broken down. Let's see, yes. Let's see. Level 1 charging works, but it is extremely inefficient. The amount of actual electricity charging the battery is less than a level 2, correct. It is a very slow charge. I don't know about the efficiency rating of it. I think part of that depends on the car that's being charged. But it's just a much slower rate of charge. It just takes a lot longer to charge a car from empty to full. So, but something to think about is, unlike a gas station where you have to make a dedicated trip to a gas station to fill up your tank, with an EV charging is something you do while you're doing something else. It's kind of like how you charge your phone. It's not like you plug your phone in and stand there and wait for your phone to charge. You plug your phone and then you go do the laundry or the dishes or your workout or whatever. It's kind of the same thing with an EV. Like you just plug it in right before you go to bed, or you plug it in when you get to the office and then it's charging while you work. Charging an EV is something that happens while you're doing something else. So even if it's a level 1 and it's slow, it's enough to meet most charging needs for daily commuters. All right, we got 2 minutes left and we've got a whole bunch more questions. Let's do this. We will include answers to these last few questions in a mass email that we're going to send out. I do want to cover just real quick, be respectful of everyone's time. Michael, if you could advance the slides, we do have a survey that we're going to be sending out after this presentation that we hope everyone can take just a few moments to answer. And it should literally take you 2 minutes. It's 9 questions. That will be in the email that we send out as well, along with the PDF of the PowerPoint deck, and then we'll answer all the remaining questions in that email. So just to wrap up, final closing thoughts. Let's hand it off to Michael first, then Melanie. So Michael, closing thoughts.
Well, thank you all for attending. It's been awesome. I'm glad that we had a tremendous turnout, and thank you for your interest in gathering more information about EV charging. We hope that you found the information useful. We hope that you apply for the program and go through our process. Again, this is free, so it's a great benefit for you in terms of if you decide to move forward today, or if you say, hey, I want to wait and maybe revisit this 6-7 months down the road. So thank you for attending, and we hope this has been great and educational for you, and I'll turn this over to Melanie.
Yeah, thank you so much all for your questions. And yeah, I really appreciate the engaged chat and everyone who joined us here today. If you have a property, we really must encourage you again to sign up for technical assistance. We're happy to answer these questions for you, specifically about your property itself. And that's part of what we want to offer here today. And either way, whether you're ready to go through that process today or tomorrow, please know that we're here to answer your EV charging questions, and we want to fund your projects.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Really appreciate the questions. Thank you for taking time. If you're interested in pursuing this, absolutely. I'll put a link in the chat. You can definitely sign up for the free design assistance, the complimentary technical advising. We will be happy to be in touch with you and get you enrolled in that. And then when you're ready, you can apply for the rebates because there's money and there's help. So thank you so much for everyone's time. Yeah, have a great rest of your day. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have officially stopped recording.